This story happening this hour as well. The EFF filing an urgent interdict challenging the incoming fuel levy increase. The hike was announced last week by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana during his 2025 budget speech. In this application filed at the Western Cape High Court just this morning, the EFF accuses the minister of acting unlawfully by using the budget speech to make a unilateral decision on this matter. The 16 cents fuel levy was proposed as a means to close the revenue deficit in the national fiscal framework following the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike being withdrawn. And this increase is due to take effect from the 4th of June. I want to bring into the program EFF Treasurer-General Omphile Maotwe. Omphile, good morning. Thanks for your time and for being with us. We expected some action from the EFF, bearing in mind your opposition to tax hikes such as these. You've now gone urgently approaching the High Court to interdict the fuel levy increase announced in the budget. Just share with us why.
Good morning to you, Iman, and the viewers of Newzroom. Yes, indeed, we filed the papers interdicting the minister from increasing or effecting the increase on the fuel levy on the 4th of June because the minister has got no powers to introduce a national tax through a gazette, a government gazette, or a notice thereof. So when you do a notice, it's when you regulate a behavior, but not when you introduce a national tax, even worse. The tax of general application to everybody, rich or poor, wealthy or not. So the minister knows very well that the constitution of the country, Section 77, is clear that any national tax that gets to be introduced needs to follow the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Matters Act, which he knows with what he's trying to do now. He's acting unlawfully, illegally, unconstitutionally, and procedurally flawed. So we've this morning, because we've written to the minister, if you remember, on Monday, the 26th of May, asking him to retract and withdraw the fuel levy increase announcement. To this date, we have not received any response from the minister except acknowledgement of receipt of our letter. So our letter was very clear that we're giving the minister 48 hours to respond. And the minister has not done that.
Yeah.
And what is more worrisome is that Parliament is continuing with its legal process, which is now we're doing public stakeholder participation, which will end. And on the 3rd and 4th of June, when the fuel levy would have been already increased, we'll be debating and working on the report of the minister that he had tabled to either amend it or approve it as it is. So it's unlawful. He doesn't have the powers. That power lies with legislature, which is us, members of parliament.
So you're saying there was silence in response to the letter, Omphile, that you sent issuing that ultimatum of 48 hours. And I presume then also silence so far insofar as the filing of these court papers.
Yeah, so we wrote 3 letters on Monday. One letter to the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana. He acknowledged it. He acknowledged the receipt of it, but he has not responded to the content. We written the letter to the Speaker, no acknowledgement, nothing. We wrote the letter again on Monday to the Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance, Dr. Joe Maswanganyi. He also acknowledged the letter and left it there. So we're left with no option but to interdict because 4th of June is next week.
Yeah.
And we can't wait. And what we suspect, because when we're asking, okay, what is going to be the process going forward? We're informed that the minister is going to issue a government notice, gazette. And as said yesterday, we were told that there's a memo on the table, but he has not yet signed it, and therefore the gazette has not come up. So we suspect that the minister was going to gazette on the 3rd of June, allowing us no window opportunity for us to interdict. So we brought forward to interdict, requesting relief from court to interdict the minister from increasing the fuel levy.
All right. So it sounds like you interpret this as a maneuver to try and get it through in the way that he envisaged. In your founding affidavit, you raised concerns about the burden on low-income households. And Pile, just expand on the data and reasoning behind the EFF's view that this increase would disproportionately affect the poor.
Similarly to the VAT increase, this fuel increase is an economical injustice to the poor. It cuts across everybody. It's a consumption-based tax, which no one is willing to absorb. Even yesterday in the Finance Committee meeting, I asked all the stakeholders that came through, Clover and all of them, I asked, are you, all of you, because you're quiet on this fuel levy, are you saying you're going to absorb that cost? Because that cost in it relates to the logistics, the entire logistics chain of goods and services. When the bakery leaves town to go and deliver bread in the rural villages, they would have poured in petrol at a higher rate. When a patient is to be moved from a clinic in the rural villages to a hospital, they would have used more fuel. Taxis, the workers that are going to work every day, that are using buses, public transport, and otherwise, they are going to now pay more. I mean, the taxi industry already said, if this fuel levy comes into effect, they'll be left with no choice but to increase the fares. And it's only fair for them. No one is willing to accept and absorb this cost. They're going to pass it on to consumers, and those consumers are me and you, irrespective of whether you are rich or poor. So it's a tax that we're going to be taxed the same, whether you are rich or you are poor. Now, the poor were sitting at this government giving grants to 18 million people who they're giving grants to. Those 80 million people are going to be affected. And where will that effect come into? There'll be a price increase on bread, there'll be a price increase on everything, all goods and services. The cost of living is just going to go higher and higher, and our people will not be able to afford. So we deem this as an economical injustice to our people. Instead of the minister introducing progressive taxes, he wants to introduce regressive tax, and fuel levy is one of the regressive tax that he's introducing, and sadly, it will be more worse for the poor.
Also, let me come in quickly. I just want to tease out a couple of issues relating to this court action that you're now doing. So it hinges on two pieces. One is the legality of it all. As you say, this is circumventing certain very important pieces of legislation. It can't just be ushered through under the guise of a budget address. And the other is the moral issue around the impact to the poor. How do you envisage this playing out?
No, we're going to win this matter in court. Is the similar case of the VAT. He attempted to do the same thing with the VAT. And you thought that he would have learned something when the court told him that you can't increase the VAT. You don't have powers to do that. That power does not lie with the executive. It lies with the legislature. So the minister is overreaching, and he knows it very well. So there's no difference between the same process he attempted to do when he wanted to increase the VAT with this one. Even our court papers are very clear that, hang on, we were here last month and we spoke about this issue. Then the minister goes back, literally replacing the VAT increase, like literally, with now the fuel increase. It's the same concept, it's the same route, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it's procedurally flawed. He does not have the powers. The powers lies with the legislature. When he finishes tabling the budget, it becomes a document of parliament. It must follow the parliament process, and the parliament process is guided by the Money Bills Act, which is very explicit in terms of how do you deal with a national tax. You introduce a legislation. You don't pass it through the notice in a government gazette. That's not how it works. It's not a regulation. He based this thing on two cases. The first case was the Mark Shuttleworth case, where the Constitutional Court ruled that he has got powers to regulate, but it was a regulation on the behavior of those people who are wealthy, who would want to move funds from South Africa going somewhere else, and they imposed the 10% levy there. The second one was the New Africa case, where it was regulating the duty-free alcohol in airports. So that's a behavior. You choose to buy alcohol. You choose to move money from South Africa out of this country to somewhere else. But with the consumption-based tax like a fuel levy, it cuts across everybody. You are going to pay tax on it directly or indirectly. And that is where we are saying it's an economical injustice to our people.